I'm selecting a 2-thread wrapped overlock wide. Once I've done that, if I want to see if I need to change anything, I do have an information screen that'll tell me if I need to change anything. And for the 2-thread wrap, there is one thing you need to change. This little lever right here, when you're doing a 2-thread, you're going to move that from where it is now and put it into position over here. But I do have to thread it first to do that. But other than that, that's all I have to do. All right. This is called a 2-thread converter. It kind of, it pretends like you've got thread in that looper and you don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the threads for my looper. All right. And I'll pull them out. And a 2-thread means I'm only going to use one needle. So I'm using the left needle, not the right needle. So I do have to open that up, and I'm going to take out one of my needles. I have a lovely little screwdriver. And taking needles in and out, what I'll often do is put a piece of fabric underneath so I don't accidentally drop the needle down into my machine. And it just gives you a little bit more support. And I'm taking out the right needle. There we go. And I even leave the thread in there so I don't accidentally drop it, because the thread's there and leave it a little bit more secure. And I'm going to take that thread out of there and get rid of it completely. So I'm using one needle, which is the A needle, and I'm hopefully not going to unthread that one so I can, because I don't have my glasses with me to rethread it. All right. So there, I've got my right needle in. And now I need to thread the looper, all right? So the looper that we're using is, how do I know what looper I'm using? Let's look and see. If I open up my tension, it shows me I'm using the green looper. So that's the green looper. It shows you everything you need to do by just going there, okay? So I'm going to take this thread, which is the black one. Oh, a pair of glasses, look at that. Okay, and I'm going to take the other threads that I'm not using off, just so that they're not hanging there. And I'm going to put on this lovely sparkle thread. This is called Glamour. And I'm going to put it through the green looper. And this is quite a heavy thread. This is, I believe, a 12-weight thread. And you can use other heavier threads. If you want to use a really thick thread or yarn, there's actually a little wire that you can use to pull it through. But I'm not going to need to do that for this, I think. So I'm going to set my machine to threading. I'm going to turn the hand wheel so it locks the loopers and gets them all ready to go. And then I'm going to let some extra thread here like this and put this down into the hole. And I'll use my tweezers to help me get it down there. Usually I don't use the wire. I don't need to use the wire for thicker threads. But if it doesn't go through easily, then it makes it really easy. You just put the wire through, and there's a loop on the end that you put the thread through, and it'll pull it all the way through like that, okay? So I'm just kind of getting it started, and I'm going to pull it like that. And you can see it's right here. It came through. It's right there like that. All right, so even that heavier cord goes through. Now, I need to make sure that I move the 2-thread converter over and lock it. You can see I'm using the left needle and I'm using the looper. That's the tension that's set. Now, when I set for this stitch, there's one thing that I do that's very different. When you do a 2-thread, if you're looking for just a 2-thread wide wrap, it looks almost like a satin stitch, right? It goes from the front to the back there. But I want to do something different because I want that fringe to be freestanding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tension for my needle and I'm going to make it 0. There's a lot of air threading sergers on the market, but you can't override the tensions. On our Amber Air 600, you can override everything. So I'm going to put the tension down to nothing, and I'll explain to you in a second why I'm doing that. All right, and once I've got the stitch and I know it's exactly the way I want it to be, then I can go over here and I can save it and I can name it, just like on our sewing machine. Like I can put a gathering stitch and then it'll say gathering stitch. So when I want to find it, I can come back. But I usually will test the stitch first and make sure it's going to do what I want it to do. All right, so now I've got that ready to go. I'm going to take this and put it on top over here like that. So it's going right over here. And my 2-thread converter is in the hole. It's now pretending like there's a thread coming through there, but there's not. All right, and I'm going to close it up But to close it up, I need to be able to move this back from air threading over to stitching, and I'm ready to go. So I've got this lovely piece of vinyl. I'll use this as my test. All right, and all I'm going to do, I can cut it. I can put my thread down here like this. And when I start stitching, I've got one thing I didn't do. When I was threading, my needle was already threaded. And if you're going to be doing this type of thing and you didn't rethread your needle, you need to make sure to bring up the needle thread above the surface. It shouldn't be down below when you're threading your loopers. So if you haven't changed the needle, then at least go back down there and I'm going to tuck that behind there. Go down and bring the needle thread above the surface. So then you'll get a good stitch when you start. All right, so I've got my stitch finger set to normal, and I'm going to just line this up. I'm not going to really cut it. I'm just going to leave it like this. All right. And I deliberately, remember, I put the needle tension down to 0, and you'll see in a moment why. And then I'm going to cut that thread. And so on the back, I don't know if you can get a close-up of that, you can see the needle tensions right there. Now, it looks kind of nice, but it's not very full-looking, right? So what would I do to make it nice and full-looking? I should make the stitch length a lot shorter, right? I didn't change my stitch length. And so that's the last thing you want to do if you want a nice full fringe stitch. All right, bring it down to as low as it'll go. And I believe it'll go down to 1. All right, so I'm going to try that again. Here was another case where it wasn't looking as full. And so now this time I'm just going to cut that off. And you can see it's going to take a little bit longer to start stitching, right? Because there's a lot more stitches. Now, what you do is you go onto your sewing machine or you go to a chain stitch and you're going to sew down right where the needle is. And you're going to, right where the edge of that needle is, you're going to sew right in that very same place. And then what you do afterwards is you come in the back and you cut the needle thread away. I don't know if these scissors are good enough to do that. Those might be better. Let's see those scissors. But if I don't sew down with my sewing machine, then what it does is it's really just, the thread's all going to fall apart. But see how the loops come forward? And then you end up with that nice, really deep fringe. So all you have to do is sew down on that seam with your sewing machine, and then all the loops come forward like that. And so you can put 2 threads through your loopers at the same time. You can do all kinds of different things. But isn't that a cool technique? Gives you a really nice finished fringe. All right.